Good, thank you very much. Yeah, so as part of kind of an ongoing series of items that we're talking about lately, we want to talk about the concept of getting your organization and your developer experience lined up so that you're ready for the next big wave of changes that are coming and that we're already seeing happening in our customer base, but also just in the industry in general. So I'm going to talk a little more abstractly about some concepts that we just want to encourage you to consider as you're looking at your database strategies for the next 5, 10 years, and particularly how that applies to AI innovation. Just got 3 short sections in our presentation here, and starting with why the cloud. You might wonder why I'm dropping back to talking about cloud when I've just been talking about AI. But it's essential for us to see that there are some very serious parallels or very interesting parallels between cloud adoption and AI adoption, although we're admittedly early in the AI adoption kind of wave of things, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But on the cloud side, we had a lot of kind of speculation about the cloud, say 15 years ago. Where is it going? What are people going to do? People would dabble in it. And then all of a sudden, seems like overnight, everybody had to have a very clear cloud strategy. And many architectures for your applications were built on cloud dependencies. And we're in a very similar situation now around the AI side. But it's important to look back and go, here are some of the kind of core reasons that companies were folding in cloud strategies into their enterprise. Now, this is from Harvard Business Review from a couple of years ago, but I think the results are pretty much the same these days. That's data consolidation, it increased security. Even back then, they were talking about AI-enabled analytics in the cloud, consolidating tools and processes, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things to bring things together, make them closer and tighter and cleaner and more secure. And really early in the cloud boom, the cloud adoption boom, the users really weren't sure how far they'd be able to go with these. And we've seen lots of success over the past decade of really adopting and making best practices around cloud adoption. But at the end of the day, what we've summarized and what our customers articulate to us are these kind of core values of that they look for in cloud databases. So take away this as kind of your checklist card for when you are looking for a cloud database option, that you make sure that you have some of these options. Most of these, if you remove any one of these in particular, you'll have certain challenges. I don't go into it in detail here, but you'll have certain challenges that you have to address. The performance and scalability is one of those big things that was pitched early on in the cloud adoption. And then as more globally available cloud resources came online, we started getting into more about the global high availability concepts. And we got into more of the multi-cluster, multi-region concepts. And eventually into these mobile synchronizations and having kind of these edge devices connecting to databases. So all of these things are core to your strategy. Whether you acknowledge them or not, you will have to come back to addressing some of these. And then we touch on the JSON-powered flexibility as well in our presentations and documentation. It's core central feature of our database. And we don't go into it too much in detail in this presentation, but it's worth looking at our other presentations and online assets to see why that is the case. So that's switching over to a little bit about the challenges that people have building out these kinds of architectures, and then we'll transition into how that looks for AI. But this is a typical slide, a slide that shows a typical architecture and really exemplifies what data sprawl and data management challenges look like today. You might have at the bottom your infrastructure layers. They could be on-prem or cloud resources. And those, we talked about actually in the last presentation as well, talked about the challenges of managing those layers. And it doesn't really matter if some of those are managed fully by a vendor or self-managed, because when you get up to that next level where you have all these different kinds of ways of accessing your data, each of those comes with its own complexity and its own vendor and its own kind of self-managed or fully managed architectures. And increases kind of at an exponential rate the complexity of your architecture. So for each one of these items, you might not have all of these types of services in the center row here in your architecture yet, but you will, and your users will appreciate it when you do have those. And then just at the top, you've got, say, a couple dozen different applications, and then each of those needs a set of several of these kinds of data access services down below, and you add in mobile and edge applications, and they need access to a few other features and gateways to features. And it makes a very complex, kind of messy spaghetti monster, a mess of interconnected dependencies and complexities. And this is maybe what it might look like in kind of real world with some logos on here, just to give you an idea of kind of the breadth of complexity that can be married from multiple types of service providers. Won't go into detail in the text on this slide, except to say that that bottom right cost arrow is important. When you're adopting any new technology from any different vendor or from any different open source project for that matter, you have support costs, operational training, integration, licensing, and infrastructure challenges that increase costs. So I should back up and say Couchbase is used by more than 30% of the Fortune 100 enterprises, and specifically our cloud-based offering. And predominantly, we are adopted for that cost benefit, that cost reduction. So as they aggregate their services together under our umbrella. But continuing our story about our complexity of data architectures, you see all these different vendors, different products. Some are on cloud, some are not. And then you add in the complexities of having these deployed in multiple geographic locations. So this is talking about our cloud service called Capella, and it's supported in over 70 regions across these three clouds. You can now multiply the complexity of having multiple services and then having them multiplied in multiple places around the world, and also ensuring that you have active data centers in different locations, in different geographic locations as well. And then you're adding in, say, mobile devices that are connected for your users at their endpoints. And the complexity is just exponential across the kind of these last four slides, as you can see. If you have to change one service, we could probably actually just go back and hypothesize this. If you had to change out one service from this diagram, it's going to affect multiple applications, from web applications to mobile applications, and you'll have to adjust things across multiple cloud environments, across multiple regions, and ensure that they're all synchronized together. So this is a summary of what we recommend as a platform for modern applications, and this really reflects the way we've designed our Capella service, which is a database as a service available on the public cloud. You can see on the bottom left, or you can manage it yourself on-prem or in your own public cloud environments. But you'll see we've taken care of the bottom layer of the infrastructure layer. We have the performance foundation on top of that. Again, any of these items on that performance foundation line, if you remove any one of those, you're going to have your own issues. And I should say our Magma storage there is the name for our engine for optimized storage. But if you talk about removing ACID transactions or not having geo-replicated and synchronization for your workloads, you'll have other issues that you have to deal with that are not nice. And then at the top, we've got the different kinds of services. All of these are bundled up into one product offering where you put your data in and you get your data back out using the different kinds of service offerings and data access methods that we have available. And so it's designed to be a much cleaner architecture, and you should be able to do this with the cloud database platform that you choose. So now let's switch over to, I'll keep pressing the arrow key, switch over to some of the complexities of building AI on top of this infrastructure as well. So we won't go into too much detail, but we know the new application design requirements that incorporate AI are just as important and serious as our earlier applications built on the cloud. Everything must be mobile and responsive. And with AI brought into the mix, it should be contextually aware. So it needs to know who you are, where you are, what you need. Real-time information folded into an AI application is going to be expected. And then there's just that ability to be hyper-personalized that really is more of that contextually aware concept that people want the system or the application to understand who they are and what their needs are. And there's going to be a whole bunch of innovation for kind of use cases we haven't even thought of yet, of course. Here's just 4 use cases. In general use cases, we talk a lot about using Gen AI to power chatbots and kind of interactive applications. And we've just launched, actually yesterday, we had a blog post go up talking about how to search our documentation using conversational AI. And that's really exciting. But that's just the beginning. AI-powered chatbots is probably now yesterday's news in a way. Other products and companies and applications are going to be using AI for generating content. We've seen that already in a lot of marketing and copywriting and a lot of discussion, even people writing books, etc. Content generation, big one. But really where we think that it starts to get really interesting is when we get into what we call semantic/hybrid search. And I'll show you an example of that in a few minutes. But it's not just using AI's capabilities to mine some data and give you an answer, but using AI alongside the best of breed of other types of kind of querying and analytical data access approaches can give you a way more powerful and performant experience. You've probably all seen the chatbots where you type a thing and you have to wait a few seconds for an answer. Well, with hybrid search, we're flipping that kind of upside down, saying, look, use the best and fastest capabilities of your systems and add in AI as well and get a more contextually aware answer. And then the kind of 4th use case here, and there's many other use cases that we've seen and have been discussing, but is the more complex data analytical side of things. So the classifications, predictive analytics, things like that. So we also believe like vector search is one AI component that is worth looking up if you're not already familiar with vector search or vector embeddings or generative AI in general. Recommend you look up those buzzwords and dive in a bit. It doesn't take a lot to kind of get that under your belt. But we see that vector search along with AI is one of those things that's is going to be available across the board, no matter what you're doing. And as long as you've got a foundation underneath that can support the real-time aspects of it, the in-memory speed, etc., you're going to be good to go. But don't forget about the mobile and edge use cases, because those are going to be paramount for your user experience as well. From anything from field teams needing predictive maintenance to being able to take pictures of things or having customer support get passed through to the right levels, you need mobile integration as well. These here are 2 issues that kind of came up as well in the cloud boom, but are increasingly important in the AI boom here as well. The sharing of proprietary and sensitive data. You can't ignore the fact that if you're using third-party services, that you have some kind of security assessment required. And we use vector search and the RAG techniques to help make sure that you're not passing data around unnecessarily. And also, we know in the AI sphere, we get this idea of hallucinations, because if you don't have data that's relevant to your organization, your answers and your customer experience is going to be pretty poor. So you want to make sure that you can actually develop a steadfast AI offering that knows your information, that makes sure that it's correct before it gives answers back to its users. So keep that on your list of issues. But overall, and kind of summarize, preparing applications for AI shows some of these architectural weaknesses that we've just been discussing. We have opinions on all of this, and we have a performant capability to show this in action. And I'll leave you a link at the end. But really, there's diverse sets of data that are going into our AI applications, and we got to ensure that they're not complex and tied in a complex way to your existing infrastructure. And the top bar on this one, the idea that we're kind of in the timeline of AI adoption, and what we call AI application modernization. It's really, we're just enhancing existing applications right now. I should say we, as in the global marketplace, and application developers are just learning the technology, tweaking some existing apps to make some new features available. And then we get into what's going to be very soon and already started creating new applications that can provide functionality that never existed before. And this is going to be the game-changing capabilities that we'll be talking about a year from now, about amazing companies doing really great things. But it is a huge problem. We could say it's Y2K sized for those of you that were around in Y2K timing. You'll get that reference, but it's a problem for everyone, and everyone's going to be pushed to create the new applications and not just keep enhancing older ones. And it's everyone everywhere. But the one point I do want to point out here is the idea of kind of shifting focus. We have seen that there's a real push for multi-purpose databases to accommodate AI designs. And when we say multi-purpose, we mean databases that support those multiple types of services at multiple levels, like we've been showing in some of these slides, and I'll show you some more in a minute. But it's really just saying, oh, here's a collection of tools to solve a problem is not nearly as effective as having a coordinated, collated, and integrated set of tooling and data access approaches available. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. Here's an example of what we're calling a hybrid search. So it's an exciting opportunity because we can go down this list and see the different kinds of queries, in this case, or search capabilities or database analytics, whether it's looking for numeric ranges or geospatial information, or looking at trying to find fuzzy matching text terms. Once you add semantic and vector capabilities in, you can start to do a little bit more. So maybe previously you could, search for prices and locations and things, but now we can actually show a photograph. We can actually now describe a little more textually and get context, and then also add in the other database capabilities that we're used to using to get a better result for your user and a faster result than just, say, trying to throw it all at the AI to figure it all out. If anyone's used ChatGPT to try to get a real nice numeric answer, it can be really challenging. And vector search needs to be working alongside regular database technology, and it needs to have your corporate information, like your real vetted information, handy as well, so that it can proof check itself. And that's what we'll walk through here in the next few slides. It's just showing, if you jumped into a public AI chatbot today and asked a question, you'll get a fairly generic answer back. You won't necessarily be able to proof check it or anything like that, but it's an answer that might be of interest to you. All of the detail on here isn't quite as important as just to show you the complexity that goes behind the scenes in building some of AI applications, and how having some integration with your data platform already will be very important for you so it doesn't get unwieldy. But in this case, just wanted to walk you through a general RAG application and what this looks like. The idea that when you're loading, in our case, loading JSON documents into your database, it goes out to what's called an embedding model, gets a little piece of data to help it get indexed into our search service at the end of the day. So that's like data going into our database, into our users' databases, is getting indexed on the fly with what we call the text of the document, and then also the vector embedding information that the AI knows what to do with. And then kind of at another level, we get a search request from a user, and it goes and gets some vector embedding information from a large language model, and then sends that request over to our search service. And the search service can actually do its own nearest neighbor analysis to find documents in that database that are similar to the question that the user had. And then ultimately it can be sent over again to another LLM to help collate and create a readable human response with accurate data from your own search, from your own data set and your own data service in this architecture. So looks a little more complex than it really is. We're talking about indexing data and then being able to find matches that are contextually similar to each other. And so we take this diagram here and we just add on our top left side here, AI model execution. Once you add that in, if you don't already have these services all lined up and integrated together, then you're going to have more than just one black straight line coming down to these. You're going to have that spaghetti monster again, because you added in the AI model execution framework, and it has to understand all of your services to really be effective. So that's why we have integration at every level. We won't go into detail here, but I wanted to show you there are AI related challenges for each of these things, or integration points for each of these services that we're offering here. Ultimately, it comes down to performance and accuracy, as long as you have tight integration with your database platform. And to summarize it all up, again, this building blocks on top of each other. At the bottom, we've got an enterprise grade capabilities. In our case, it's a multi-model in-memory database with mobile connectivity. And then you go up to kind of the modern application implications of having this database platform. And we have a DBaaS offering and an on-prem offering. And we have the applications that need back-end synchronization kind of taken care of for them. A lot of people write their own synchronization applications, and it's very hard. And we've got over a couple decades now of experience, I think, in that space. And then the generative and predictive applications get a little more complex, but that's where we're rolling in our AI capabilities, and then edge integration with machine learning and AI at the edge on mobile devices, on IoT environments, etc. So this is kind of our vision for where real-time AI gets implemented, and you can't really take much out of this without having the structural challenge. So whether it's our system or another one, please make this your checklist of what capabilities you're going to need going forward. So that's a summary of our kind of our setup. I just wanted to leave this slide with you as a takeaway, that there are aspects to database platforms that we've implemented from day one, which is the in-memory and integrated caching, and we've continued to add those performance foundation assets to it, and are now at the point where AI integration will just become an additional capability that's enabled within our system, instead of trying to figure out how it has to integrate with a whole bunch of external systems, etc. So check out our free trial. There's no credit card required or anything like that. Just go have a look at it. Our DBaaS called Capella. And I guess at that point, yep, that's the last slide. So thanks for your time, and look forward to any questions.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you, Tyler, and thanks for sharing that. And definitely you got quite a number of questions that came in here, so we'll try to address as many as possible. I know this QR is great. We can hop back to it after if we need to, but I'm just going to throw up a poll here. So if any of you are intrigued and wanting some more information about the Couchbase solution, please feel free to just give them a sense of what you're looking for. Data sheets, white papers, pricing details. And with that, Tyler, are you ready to jump into some Q&A?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So first question here, it's a bit around pricing. They're saying, isn't it going to be more expensive to use a huge product instead of, say, multiple smaller open source pieces?
Yeah, it's a good question. The idea that open source will be your free product for you, everyone that's going to investigate open source versus enterprise proprietary commercial solutions, and understands this problem already. Sometimes one-on-one, you can do some comparative analysis and find pricing works out in a comparable way. But really, when you're talking about this architectural spaghetti monster scenario, where really you're really lost in a lot of weeds. You've got a lot of technical debt that you have to kind of build into your or address in your applications. There's a lot of training, and different platforms require different hardware and different systems. It's much more complex than most people realize to keep those things running smoothly together. And when there is a transformative shift, kind of like we saw to the cloud, well, to AI, it's not going to be a price competitive option for you. You're going to need more staff, and we've got brilliant use cases on our website that talk about how we are able to, decrease the number of nodes, for example, that are needed on a cloud environment by half just by moving to our platform. So that's real costs, not just in staff time, which we usually talk about when you're comparing to open source technology, but not just in staff time, but also in actual cloud resources and hardware resources. So especially in the cloud, we've got some really good case studies showing how your TCO can be dramatically affected by moving to a consolidated multi-purpose platform.
Yeah, amazing. And I I compare this a little bit to website building and trying to use all these different plugins, and they don't always update at the same
Hmm.
time, and one gets
Oh, yeah.
discontinued. So it's like, oh,
Yeah, like
why?
it used to be, so early web days, if you had, your LAMP stack with Linux and Apache and uh, MySQL and PHP, you were great. You had your web development, and in that era, you could have three or four technologies, bundle them together because they're different layers of the tech stack. And yeah, you could have a comparable story or a comparable challenge to, say, buying an Adobe product or something off the shelf. But
Yeah,
now, with that complexity, it's exponentially more challenging, and you still have all those options, but there's still more barriers than ever before for keeping them all running smoothly together.
yeah. Yeah, I've got another good question here. So I'm saying you said you have on-prem and cloud services, but can you move from one to the other? For example, develop locally and then scale into cloud as the product is launched, or say vice versa in some fashion.
Hmm. Yeah, a lot of developers will use an on-prem version, and you can even get it on your own laptop, like and run test environments in your own enterprise before you moving it to the cloud. But that one component I didn't spend a lot of time focusing on, what was this cross data center replication capability we have. So we are a clustered service offering. So when you have more needs for certain services, you add additional nodes for that. And you can actually connect clusters together and keep them in sync with one another. So you can actually do development in one cloud or an on-prem, and then connect it when you're ready for production, connect it to your other systems and have data kind of get streamed across to other systems without having to kind of do a lot of manual work. So no, we definitely have feature alignment between on-prem and our cloud database offering. So there's no problem there. You can learn on either one, and you can get a free trial online and get started without needing to set up any hardware. So there's a benefit there. But yeah, it's made and designed specifically for that scalability, and you can scale in your own hardware as well. You don't have to have a cloud account for that.
Right, incredible. And I think we're about at time, so I'm just going to ask, what's the call to action? What's the first step if somebody's curious, they want to um, take the plunge or give
Yeah,
a sample with you
yeah,
guys at
just that last slide there, and then our downloaded handout that we have available for your viewers will get you up and running. You can go to cloud.couchbase.com and sign up there for free. Give it a whirl. We have sandbox resources and tutorials that are available for many different use cases. And we have an AI-enabled management interface that allows you to even ask the AI to build your sample data for you and to write your queries and your SDK-based API code for accessing your data. So it can be really quick and really easy. We encourage you to give it a try.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much for being here,
Thank
Tyler,
you.
and we'll see you again next time.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Take care. Cheers. I saw somebody had shot a question in about the demo link, so I've just got that up again. If anyone wants to give the database as a service, wow, I can't speak, Couchbase Capella free trial. The link is there, and it is hyperlinked, so you can click right on it. And there's also the QR handy. So I'll leave that up for a few more seconds if you were one of the curious folks looking to do that. And as Tyler mentioned, there is the handout there. This is a data sheet. It is generative AI, willpower, adaptive applications. Gen AI is not only changing application development, it will change applications too. So that is the title, subtitle. Check it out. It's linked there in the handouts tab.